Hello, everybody. Welcome. We're going to be talking today with an expert. He is the chairman of litigation, entertainment, and intellectual property. So we're going to cover topics such as, AI, entertainment contracts, frivolous lawsuits. So I want you to say hello to Albert Solar of Solar and Salva. He's got a lot to share, and this is going to be really interesting. So stay tuned. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
You know, it was such a pleasure. I met you first at an event, and then we had lunch, and we talked about all kinds of legal issues that are in the news every day,
Right.
From AI to contract disputes. But the one that really caught my attention first, which is where I want to start, was frivolous lawsuits.
Yes.
How do these things happen? How do people just sue for what seems nonsensical?
You know, it's interesting. First of all, thank you. It's nice to be here with you. It's always a pleasure, and meeting you was again a real pleasure. So thank you. I've been doing this for decades, and one thing that I always pride myself on is taking care of people and really understanding why people do what they do. It makes you a better litigator. It makes you somebody who can strategize a little bit better. So how do they arise? Well, I'm a firm believer that there are good folks and not so good folks, right? And human nature can be the entire spectrum. There are good people and there are not so good people. And I think that litigation, one of the problems is that it's used as a tool. And the person with the more money can typically abuse those who have less. And the legal system, especially litigation, is really set up in a manner where it can be inequitable and it can be unfair depending on your resources. What we try to do, what I've done all my life really is, we have a lot of experience. I try to take care of people first, to the extent that we can do that. And if somebody has an issue where they're being mistreated, well, I get very, very aggressive about it because I don't like people operating with impunity and doing whatever they want to do. So how does it arise? Well, it can arise a million different ways. Usually it's somebody who feels they've been wronged by somebody else, and they typically have more resources than that other person. And to quote, make life difficult, I'm going to file a federal lawsuit. Now, what is really concerning, and I'm dealing with this actually now on a really large matter, is that if you take criminal law, for example, where somebody's charged with a crime, there's something called an evidentiary hearing. Where the judge,
this is what we were talking about.
Yes.
So I want to get into this. This was fascinating, and I had never heard it broken down because I didn't go to law school.
So, I always try to find initiatives and suggestions that might help cure kind of the inequities that happen in litigation, right? So what you and I were talking about was this idea that I'd like to push and suggest, which is in criminal law, you have what's called an evidentiary hearing. What is that? Well, the judge and the court are going to have you prove and show your evidence that relates to the charge you're bringing against somebody. Why? So you don't bring somebody criminally without actual basis for it. So the court can determine you don't have enough, there's nothing there, you're wasting time. That does not exist in the civil system. The gatekeepers who have that function are the attorneys. So what happens when an attorney decides to not follow the ethical rules? The system breaks down. So if an ethical rule of an attorney is to not bring a frivolous suit and to only bring suits with merit, what happens with the attorney for money, for whatever reason, for a new
There's a
case?
bit of a conflict of interest there.
Exactly right. I've never taken a frivolous case, and I never will. I first vet out my cases. I make sure that they have merit, that there's evidence for the accusation. Why do I do that? Because you're going to embark on a very expensive, lengthy, and stressful endeavor.
I mean, that was clearly one of the things that drew my attention to you when we were speaking and made me say, I really wanted to do this interview. Because people will throw money at you for all kinds of things. When they feel like they know what they want and they think they're right. And I can't tell you how many times I've said, that's just crazy. I'm not getting involved with it. Yes, I can't take your money. And it's the same thing that you're saying here. They're just that fine line between what's ridiculous or frivolous or vengeful or vindictive.
You hit it right on the head. I mean, a lot of times these frivolous suits are because of revenge, They're because people want to be vengeful. They've been scorned. And they feel like I'm going to make things difficult on this person. Now, the majority of my practice is really complex commercial litigation. I do a lot in entertainment, film, TV, music. But there are times where I take cases when I really believe that there is a wrong that I just have to correct. I feel like I can't allow certain things to just pass. And so I'll adjust my rates. I'll do whatever it takes to bring justice as much as I can to a situation that's otherwise unjust. So, for example, back to the issue about the evidentiary hearing, imagine if, for example, somebody sues you and says that you created a device and the device has controlled your entire universe. That is your email, that is your medical records, that is your bank accounts. Now, we all know that those kind of devices don't exist. And the only folks that can pull off a device like that are usually government level type of operators. There's no technology that allows you to do that. But if you find an attorney who for a fee is willing to file that case, you're in trouble. And what I found, because I'm dealing with this actually right now, what I found is there's almost no way to get out. Whereas a criminal case, the judge would say, show me the evidence of the crime. And you'd say, here it is. And they would say, not enough. Goodbye. Or this is frivolous. You have nothing. This person didn't do anything. The civil system doesn't have that.
So when you say there's no way to get out, it's kind of like what you're saying is once you get started, those wheels start going and you can't back it
Right.
back
So
out.
the typical way that it works is like this. I want to bring a totally frivolous suit against you. What do? I file a 30-page complaint in federal court, Southern District of New York, and I allege anything I want. I can allege cyber stalking. I can allege illegal devices. I can allege that you literally came down in a flying saucer and you hit me on the head. I could allege that. And what happens is now I have to go through the process. So I file my complaint. I'm assigned to a judge. Then I have to answer that frivolous complaint, either agree or disagree, and I can file counterclaims against that person. In our case, we did. We filed for defamation because a frivolous suit is taking place. The problem is that after that point, you're now in the system, meaning the litigation system. So what comes next? The very expensive and brutal process called discovery, which is the exchange of information. The problem is, in the olden days, you maybe had a binder of hard copy documents. Maybe cost you $1,000 to get production done, which means I review my documents, I stamp them for litigation, and I give them to the other side's attorney, and we start exchanging these documents. What happens today is that a lot of business is conducted on text messages. And those text messages reside on telephones, mobile phones. What happens now is you have to actually retain experts to now take forensic images of the phones, collect text messages, WhatsApp messages, emails, anything that you sent to anybody. And now we have to obtain those files, argue with the court and with the opposing counsel what we can and cannot see, have them review it first, then we review it, upload it to a platform that we have to pay for, spend hours and hours reviewing every single text message, code each one, and then produce what's relevant to the other side.
Wow.
Now imagine doing that for a case alleging something so outrageous that you know it can't happen. And then you have the added problem of the folks who bring those cases will also usually misrepresent and lie in the papers, which is an absolute no-no. If you want to lie in federal court, you're going to get hit eventually with big sanctions, right? If you think about it, and this is something that I always try to remind myself of, the legal system in this country is what separates the U.S. from a majority of other countries. I'm from Peru, I'm South American, and in South America, the law does not exist like it does here. Here, you do have an opportunity, most of the times, not always, to plead your case. And you will mostly, not always, get a fair shake. Other countries, you don't even have an opportunity to do it. So this is the best of the difficult systems that exist, and it's far from perfect.
I'm glad you said that.
You know?
Because that's really how I feel.
Yeah.
You know, people piss on the United States all the time. I'm like, you know what? I like our flag. I like our system. Find a better one. Prove it's better. And then we can have a conversation.
And they also say that about democracy, same exact thing.
Yeah.
It's the best of flawed systems.
Yeah.
Right? So in the end of the day, nothing's perfect. But I do feel, you know, having lived in other countries, that if you're wrong, you will have a shot Does it mean you'll get the best judge in the world? Does it mean that you'll get the justice you seek? Maybe not. But just having that shot is really, really important.
I'm just curious. We have to go backwards a little before we go forwards.
Yeah.
Where'd you get this, I don't like to see someone bullied from?
You know,
Is that upbringing? Is that law school? That just what you gravitated towards? What is it?
you know, I've always, ever since I was young, I played a lot of sports in my life, and I love to compete. But I also love to bring people around me up as much as possible and help. And I think success really is when you bring your team up. To me, that's success. It's not just about the individual. Who do you make better from the process, and what opportunities do you give? In my law firm, for example, we have folks there who are getting and receiving amazing opportunities to learn from folks and to have responsibilities. But I remember when I was younger, this would come up. I wouldn't allow someone to get bullied in the cafeteria. I wouldn't allow anyone to get bullied on the playground, for example. I felt always a responsibility to those who may not have the voice, or those who maybe are too weak to assert themselves. And that is something that affects adults, kids, adolescents. And when we talk about the AI and the social media, for example, this comes up again. Right.
Let's move into social media and then transition into AI, because that social media came first.
Sure. So, you know, this idea of the anti-bullying really applies to social media. And a few things are happening that I notice both in my practice, but also with young folks and the kids today is, if you realize a lot of them are losing the opportunity to communicate, to look someone in the eye, to have that rapport with somebody, and to build the relationship. Right? When you and I met, we had a great conversation. We understood each other. We exchanged cool ideas. We knew that there was somewhere else that we can take, you know, our respective professions, and as friends and colleagues, be successful together. But what I'm realizing now is that the generation now, the social media generation, as I call it, there's two things that are going on. One is there is no more interaction among people. It's interaction with your phone. There are kids that are on phones 12 hours a day. Whether it's games, whether it's scrolling, what that does is that your mind isn't thinking. You actually are not thinking about creative things, right? When I was that age, a teenager, I loved music and music production, but no one taught me how to do it. I had to buy the drum machine, figure out how to hook it up myself. How do I connect this? How does it work? Then the computer programs came out for music. There was no tutorials like today where you pay $100 you get 58 hours worth of video. You had to figure it out, right? And so I think kids now are losing the ability to do that, and they're just consuming content that others create. And the bad part about that is you're not thinking and stimulating your own thought, but you're getting dragged into other people's thoughts via this algorithm that is very, very dangerous. If you look at elections, if you look at politics, if you look at current events and issues, social media and the algorithm, the computer algorithm, is very good at focusing you on an issue that you may think is mainstream, but it's not.
Yeah.
And the danger of that is that you get into this false sense of my position, as obscure as it is the common position. And mainstream, I had no idea. And the test of that is you put, for example, on any of the major platforms, put in aliens, green aliens, and a spaceship. If you do enough searches, you're going to get like-minded folks who also saw the green alien in a ship. And they also came out of this flying saucer, and they shook your hand, and they took your wallet, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But you're going to find that the algorithm is going to link you with your thoughts that then make you believe or suggest that that's the mainstream view. And that's also
It's so true.
And,
it's so true.
There's a lot of good documentaries on this.
And it pays to do it as a funny thing. Like one day my daughter had said to us, or said to me one morning, she said, Mom, I had a terrible night's sleep. I didn't go to bed till 4 a.m. I fell down the TikTok rabbit hole, and I had never been on TikTok. So I'm like, I wonder what TikTok really is. So I see this guy doing some Tai Chi, and I'm like, wow, I want to remember how to do that. So I like it, and I save it. Next thing, I have another guy doing, I'm like, wow, he's pretty good at that Tai Chi. In the morning, I say to my daughter, I don't understand what you find so appealing. It's like everyone was doing Tai Chi. And she goes, Mom, You need to erase your whole TikTok. You triggered the algorithm.
That is so funny. You triggered the Tai Chi algorithm.
Yes.
Interesting.
So as you're saying with you want to find aliens landing in spaceships, you're going to find it if you find one and you like it. So it's such a perfect test for someone to do for themselves.
Oh, yeah.
That you raise.
Yeah. And it's not even what you search. The systems are so advanced that
It's just playing what you're liking, what you're taking a little longer engaging with.
exactly right. It actually senses how long you paused.
Yeah.
And if you, for example, scroll down and go back up.
Yeah.
So now it knows that, I went back up to the Tai Chi. Oh my gosh, it must be everybody's Tai Chi.
Must be all she's interested in.
But
now, how are you finding this impacting law? And have you had clients have issues with this?
Yeah, AI is affecting law and fraud incredibly. And I'll give you an example. So we represent a lot of influencers, very successful folks, and they work really hard at their craft. And I have a couple examples where one of them, for example, sends me a video. It's them. And they're selling a particular item, $100,000 worth of this particular item. And the victim actually sent the money to somebody who requested it. So I say to the client, look, yeah, that's you. Why'd you send me this? And they said, it's not me.
Right.
I never did that video. I never made it.
Yeah.
So what con men are doing and thieves are doing is they're actually creating with AI videos of you, videos of other influencers, other folks, and they actually create real videos. You believe it's them. And so now AI allows thieves and those kind of folks the ability to trick and steal from other people much easier because you believe that video is of that person and it isn't.
That is so huge. I mean, one day I woke up and I've got a, decent social media following, and a bunch of people were sending me pictures of me on the front page of Apple News. And it is absolutely me, but I've never been in that car.
Right.
And so somebody superimposed that, created this, image. And I'm like in 3 different pictures. It's not me. But the thought of bringing video into that, I mean, and you're seeing a lot of it now. I mean, I happen to be fascinated with a lot of the things that, Elon Musk has done in all his different companies. But one, I mean, he's showcasing his mom in these videos where she comes to life. And instead of just getting out of the car, some picture that's, let's say, an Associated Press guy snapped or Getty Images.
Yeah.
Now it's her. They've taken that video and it's her walking into the event. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's creepy.
Oh, yeah. No, the power of the video editing right now is completely out of hand. And, part of the problem also is that even when you look at music, for example, you can now take software and AI software and create a song sang by any of your favorite artists. And it's actually their voice. So you have what they call bots, and you have algorithms that are actually scouring the internet for artists and picking every word that they said, so that when somebody types in a verse, for example, in a hip hop song or a rap song, that artist is gonna rap that verse with their own voice. So you can trick people into thinking that that's a Lil Wayne track or a Jay-Z track, and they never did it. And so what's happening now is that with respect to music, you remember when Napster first happened.
Oh yeah.
Right. So
do I remember Napster, because it triggered a whole collapse in my company at one point when somebody took their iPhone, they were going on a long trip, and they plugged it into my corporate system, and which made it, one day I come into the office and somebody's looking at me not looking so good, and they're like, what's the matter? And they're like, a bunch of our corporate files are missing.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, what?
Oh, yeah.
We had to get the police involved, the FBI involved, because people were thinking the client names were bands that they never heard of. And the police, the detective says to me, do you do a lot of work in Iceland? No. Do you do a lot of work in Brazil? No. It was just this massive exchange, and people thought the files, instead of that they were corporate files.
Oh, yeah.
So that was the start of the internet.
Yeah.
Boy, you learned how to set up internet safety protocol quickly.
100%. What's interesting about the Napster thing is I reflect on it now. So Napster 2.0 is happening now with AI, music.
How?
But what's interesting is back when Napster happened, the recording industry, I'll use music as an example, the recording industry fought Napster. And they started filing hundreds of lawsuits against
Yep.
the users and Napster for downloading illegal files.
Right.
Fast forward to AI music, and the recording industry learned a very important lesson. You're not going to stem or slow down technology. It's never going to happen.
Yeah.
You either fight and lose, or you monetize and adapt to AI. So right now, the reason you don't hear a bunch of lawsuits going on about AI music is because the record companies, the labels, are actually negotiating with the AI platforms for licensing, right? So we do a lot of music and entertainment, and the licensing revenue is probably the biggest one that exists. Today, the money you make off a sound recording when it comes to Spotify and those platforms is so tiny that there's no way to make a living.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's 0.007 cents per stream. It's something crazy. Snoop Dogg the other day was commenting that, I'm going to remove my songs from Spotify because it doesn't make sense. This many streams is that much money. So the real money in music is the licensing, right? So the licensing of music and film, TV, that's where the revenue is. So a lot of the AI platforms now take music and they either remix it or they want to add elements to it. And the labels learn the lesson from Napster. I can't fight the tide. It's going to happen. And that's the same when it comes to AI, when it comes to employment, when it comes to careers, when it comes to different industries. You have to embrace it because you're not going to fight that tide. And, a quick funny story about AI, one thing I do think is very dangerous is that no matter what the computers do and AI does, when you lose your voice, you've lost.
Yeah, that's scary.
Very scary. What I mean by that is, so I got an email not too long ago from a client I've had for many, many years. I know their writing style. I know their emails. I've read it for maybe 15 years. Now, we did a deal, a successful deal. Everything went great. And then I got an email where, the client was thanking the counterparty. The most beautiful email I've ever read. It was the most eloquent, just vibrant thing I've ever read. And in my head, I thought, wow, that's a little different than what I'm used to. Turns out that was AI drafted.
Yep.
And the funny part is that after a few exchanges of emails went back and forth, the original writing style came out. The person forgot that they were using AI, and then it was totally different from what it was. So think about this concept, right? By trying to find your voice using AI, you're actually losing it.
Yeah.
And that's something that always stuck with me because I always want to be original.
Yeah.
Can you use AI as a tool? Absolutely. But when you lose who you are, how you write, how you express yourself, your ability to connect, you've really lost who you are as an individual. That's the danger.
Oh my gosh, you articulated that so beautifully, Albert, and I could not agree with you more. It's like owning a PR firm for 30 plus years and counting. And I've always had my team take a stab at writing whatever it is that needed to be written. I'd say, no, I want to see how you would write. And when I would go to edit, I would always edit only for facts because how Albert writes is totally different than how Diane would write. It's like a signature.
Right.
But I could close my eyes, I can tell you this. And if I had 25 people working for me, and I asked them to write a press release on the exact same topic, I could say, this was by James, this was Lisa, this was Susan, this was Laura, because everyone has their own style of writing. And to think that could go away pains me.
Yes, and I'm already seeing it. I'm seeing it. And even in law, AI is a tool for research.
Yeah.
I never allow it to write for me because the whole point of litigation is that you have your own style of making your arguments.
Arguments, yeah.
You've been persuasive for the last 20 years. Stay persuasive. Just elevate your game. Become even better. But I think it is going backwards when you use computers and algorithms to actually try to make those arguments because, even with music, a quick story about the music part. I used to get calls all day long on behalf of clients for productions, special tracks, custom-made tracks for movies. Those are almost gone. And, clients say to me, how come we're not getting the calls? And I say, it's because the world is changing. Partially, it's because you guys, the artist, were difficult with this person. And you wanted the green M&Ms and you wanted certain alcohol in the green room and you showed up late or didn't show up at all. You breached the agreement. So guys, you have to recognize that when you have an alternative, that is faster, cheaper, and gives you an okay product, maybe a studio doesn't want to deal with you at the moment. Yeah. So what I'm noticing on the music front is that there's a lot of studios that are making movies that would prefer to use companies that create an AI track. Mm-hmm. So they'll go to the company and they'll approach them and say, look, I have a scene. It's in space. There's two fighter jets, spaceships that are fighting. I need something dark, ominous, fast, this BPM, this speed. And they get something that I have to say isn't bad. Mm-hmm. It's pretty good. And so imagine a flat rate, $2,500, whatever it might be, versus $15,000, $20,000, dealing with the green room issues. And that's not all artists. I've had amazing relationships with ones that are real professionals. But there's also the ones that are still living, in the past where whatever they want, they got. It doesn't happen anymore. You have to be better. Mm-hmm. You have to be more respectful. You have to be, frankly, just more of a professional. Yeah. In order for people to continue to deal with you, because you have alternatives now that didn't exist in the past. Now you have them. So that's one observation that is sticking with me as well, because I'm seeing it, I'm living it.
And it's interesting too, you talked about technology and the law, and for several years I worked with Avalon Ventures, big venture firm out in California, and one of the partners used to always say, technology precedes the law. Mm-hmm. That the law is always going to be trying to catch up with whatever new technological development has come up.
And it is slow.
Yeah.
The law is like that huge oil tanker trying to turn 360 in the ocean. It's excruciatingly slow. And I think it's a problem, right? I'll give you an example of why it really bothers me.
Yeah.
So the infringement of people's trademarks, right? And a trademark is a mark. It's a source identifier. It's like saying, Nike, Coke, Pepsi. Those are trademarks. Can
you clarify a trademark versus a service mark?
Yeah. So a service mark is a type of trademark. Mm-hmm. One is for goods. Mm-hmm. The other one's for services that you offer. The important part of a trademark is that it's a source identifier. That means that as a consumer, me, you, everybody, that when you buy that product under that mark, you're going to get a certain quality of good. Mm-hmm. If I buy a Nike apparel, a Nike shoe, I'm going to get Nike quality. Mm-hmm. So what happens if everybody could do the same thing and call it Nike or call it Nike or something similar? Mm-hmm. Consumers are going to be confused into thinking that you're going to get that quality when you're not going to get that quality. That's what trademark law aims to prevent. I want to prevent the hard work and the quality that you put into your product to protect consumers. It's to protect the brand, but it's mostly to protect consumers so that consumers aren't duped into a product that's inferior.
And what's trademark versus copyright?
So think of trademark as a brand.
Okay.
So that would be the Nikes, that would be the Adidas. Mm-hmm. Think of copyright as the words in a book. Mm-hmm. Think of copyright as a photograph, copyright as a movie. Mm-hmm. So things that you have the right to make a copy of.
Got it.
I have the right to make copies of my book. Why? Because I wrote it. Mm-hmm. I have the right to make copies of my movie. Why? Because I shot it. Mm-hmm. I have the right to make copies of my song because I wrote the song or I performed the song. So copyright is for things like books and photographs and a variety of things. Trademark is a source identifier of that good. And those two get confused all the time. I get this question all the time. And it's really the simplest way I can explain it is trademark's a brand for goods. Copyright is my original ideas, which I have the right to copy and distribute to others. So again.
You know what? Since we were talking about AI and voice and copyright and trademark and infringements and all these things, I have a question for you. I'm going to put you on the spot, but I'm curious because I didn't follow all the details closely. But at some point, Taylor Swift said she lost the publishing rights to her songs. So Scooter Braun or whoever had them.
She lost her masters.
Her masters. And then she went and re-recorded them. Mm-hmm. So how did that law all work? Like, how did she get the right to re-record?
Because
Who held the publishing? Do you happen to know? Because it was such an interesting thing to watch happen.
Yeah.
Like, who got screwed there?
okay, so this is interesting.
But she did sell them and made a lot of money, and then she went and re-recorded them.
I'm actually very, very happy that you brought this up because it's extremely interesting. I actually have, when I speak about things related to music
Yeah.
and the arts, I try to be very fair. It's not always that the artist is right. It's not always that the record company is right. You have to look at it from different perspectives. And a lot of folks don't understand the business of music. I can tell you right now, I've been doing music for decades. It is still one of the hardest, most complex disciplines in law that exist. And few people do it and do it right. You look at a recording agreement today, you have 60, 70, 80 pages worth of the most dense, complicated language because you're dealing with kind of an archaic system of rights where, to break it down as simple as possible, think of it like this. A record has two sides, two halves of a pie. Albert wrote the lyrics to the song.
Right.
You did the beat, the music. You wrote the music. Today, the way that works is that you and I would typically split what's called the publishing 50-50. Why? Because I wrote it and you did the beat. Now, what is publishing? Imagine publishing as the written work. You haven't recorded anything. I just wrote my lyrics down, and you, on notation or in your computer program, you created a beat. In the olden days, the beat maker wasn't entitled to any publishing. Today, that's changed because the beat maker now creates melodies, and those melodies are personal to you. You're a writer. So think of it as publishing is the written song. Okay, you and I get into a studio. I sing, you do the beat, we come to an agreement. Oh my gosh, it sounds incredible. There's my publishing, 50-50. Now, Sony, Universal comes to us and says, you know what, guys? We love your song. That song you wrote is really amazing. We would love Justin Bieber to perform it and record it. So now the record label is going to strike a deal with the publishers, the owners of the song, to record that song for Sony, Universal, or whoever the label might be, performed by Justin Bieber, performed by any artist, Taylor Swift, for example. So now you have two parts of a song. We talked about the publishing. That's the written part. Now you have the master recording. Now, who does that belong to?
That's the part I didn't understand in the whole story.
Here's the thing. Let's use Taylor Swift as an example. If she owns her publishing because she wrote the song,
Right.
that always belongs to her. But when Sony or Universal or whoever paid to record that song with any artist they want or with Taylor Swift, if I'm paying for studio time, if I have you signed under a deal, if I'm doing everything, if I'm spending millions of dollars on marketing the song, well, the record label owns the master recording. Why? Because they essentially paid for it.
Got it.
Okay, but here's the issue. That a lot of fans of music don't realize that even today, and I've experienced this because I have my own label as well. In order to push a record today, you better set aside $1 million. Easy. Because it's not like the olden days. And people always say, oh no, everyone has the opportunity now with the internet to promote their music. That's true.
But it's so crowded
The
now.
analogy I always use is this. That's right. Here's my cup, folks.
Yeah.
And here's the opening.
Yeah.
This was 10 years ago. Here's all the music.
Yeah.
I can get out of there pretty easy. I can shine. I can rise to the top. Take this cup, multiply it by 1 million,
Yeah.
and fill it with water with the same opening. You have a very difficult time being
Getting heard. Yeah.
So the labels today still have the power in that they have the marketing dollars. And I can tell you from experience, you want to push a new single that you dropped, you better set aside $5,000 to $15,000 for an SEO campaign, a YouTube campaign to get viewers on it. So what happens is you have a whole industry that's developed. That's the marketing industry. And Spotify's editorial playlists are extremely expensive to get on. And they're prohibitive. Most artists cannot afford it. So when you think about it like that, the record labels aren't the enemy. They still have the ability
To promote
and the money to invest the $5-10 million in
Absolutely.
you. So what happens when they do that?
And the clout and the reach.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you have a young aspiring artist. The record label takes a chance on you and invests $2, $3, $4, $5, $6 million in you. You become huge. Mm-hmm. And now you come back and say, those are my masters. How can you rip me off? Mm-hmm. Well, it's a contractual deal that you made. Ask yourself this. Had you not made that deal 10 years ago, would you be big today? I don't know the answer. Mm-hmm. Maybe, maybe not. But it sure helps to have a huge label with power and resources and connections to push your music.
It's great how you broke down publishing versus masters. That was the concept that I was missing.
Yeah, and it is complicated. A master simply is
those recordings
of someone else's music. Now, I put it into a recording.
For example, with Taylor Swift, since she owned the publishing, let's say, she had the right to re-record and then call them Taylor's version or whatever.
So that, in my recording agreements, the ones that I draft, I have a no re-record clause. Because, see, that was something new, and I think she was one of the first artists that did that, which I thought was very clever. I thought it was correct. The understanding was always that you wouldn't do that. Mm-hmm. She was very savvy and said, I am going to do that. So by re-recording, the master recording that belonged to the record label is irrelevant because you have your own master now. Mm-hmm. And that master belongs to you, not to the label. So you kind of sidestep.
At that point, she had the money to be able to afford to re-record and market, and she's got a huge following. You're right.
She's a great artist. She's a huge superstar. She has a lot of good music. She has a lot of fans. But she did a very savvy thing. She's a very good business person. I respect that. And she found a way to be aggressive, but also very savvy on it. So she did what she had to do to get her music back. I don't think it's unfair. I think it's just the way that you look at it. But for me, I add a no re-record clause because if I'm representing a label, I want to protect their interest too, right? I work for the label. If I'm representing the artist,
you're hoping you can slide that clause through.
I won't even mention it, right? Because it's not my job to advocate on behalf of the counterparty. That's your job. This is why having proper counsel.
That's caveat emptor.
And, it leads to kind of a segue into another issue that I see a lot.
Yeah.
For all the artists out there, everyone in entertainment, please have a proper team. It's super, super important. It's not just the attorney.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Right. If somebody today, they're trying to get up in the world, or they're right at the point where things are starting to happen to them. They're getting some bucks so they can afford to make certain payments. What are the most important things you think an artist should focus on hiring?
I think that you definitely
instead of an entourage.
Yes. The entourages, they're fun, but they're very dangerous when it comes to support and financially having to support people. And it's interesting. You get famous, and then all of a sudden you have a ton of family members that you didn't even know you had, which is very interesting. But I would say that one of the things I see a lot is an inexperienced attorney in entertainment and music, for example, and the manager who's the family member. So the brother, the cousin, the sister-in-law's brother. And I think it comes from a good place in that the artist probably wants to include family. But it's the wrong thing to do because of the level of experience it takes to understand the concepts that we've discussed, to understand the idea that licensing deals, sponsorship deals, recording deals, they're complex, they're complicated. So I had several instances where I'm trying to negotiate important deals and the manager of the counterparty just doesn't understand the business at all. And when that happens, I give them about an hour of my time before I just let the client know there's no deal. Because you're not going to get anywhere with somebody who doesn't even understand the fundamentals. If you're a manager in music and you don't know what publishing is, you have a problem. And for the artist that has that manager, you have the wrong manager. And sometimes it's to not spend money. Anything worthwhile is going to cost you. And it's quality that you're paying for. It's experience. Do you want somebody who's seen every pothole? Every issue? Or do you want somebody who is out there, wants to charge you nothing, but also knows nothing, right? So in the long run, I can't tell you, I've had to revise poorly drafted agreements, all the time. And worse than that, those agreements get artists and place artists into litigation. So think about this. A new artist doesn't want to spend $5,000 on an agreement, but they will spend $190,000 to $250,000 litigating a claim of infringement right? Or not clearing a sample. Clearing a sample means that if I'm going to use a portion of a pre-existing work, a little loop of a song that I love, I want to create it. Well, you better clear that sample. You have to clear it. What that means is I need to pay and obtain a license from the publisher and the master recording owner if you use the record. And if you don't do that and you don't clear both of them, you open up yourself up to a very significant litigation. The damages are brutal.
Vanilla Ice has a very funny clip in some interview he did where he talks about that dun dun that he used in Ice Ice Baby.
Well, that's what happened was someone asked
and he caused himself a little trouble.
That was a whole crazy story. I mean, the backstory on that was really nuts. It involved a lot of crazy things happening. But I remember that interview that you're talking about. They asked him, how was it different?
Exactly.
The original goes, dun, 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 and mine goes, dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
That little bitty bit, he said. That bit right there. So it's one of those where that's a perfect example of just clear the sample. Now, in fairness to Vanilla Ice and all these folks, back then, people didn't clear samples. It didn't start until...
They didn't clear samples until they got served with a lawsuit and said, okay, you're doing fine as long as you're not making so much money, but you just crossed this threshold, now you owe me.
Yeah. Well, I think I love music history. I love reading about artists. I love hip hop personally. I produce a lot of it. I love Latin music as well. But sampling wasn't really an issue until, I would say, around the 2000s when artists like Puff Daddy started sampling not 10 seconds, but entire tracks.
Right.
When you did that, when that started and that trend began, is when the label said, wait a minute, we might be able to tolerate 5 seconds, maybe. But when you're using the entire track, it's a problem.
Right. That's kind of getting into the, the Beatles and John Lennon versus Little Richard, when he said, wait a second, you're taking way too much of my song.
Oh, yeah. And there are certain artists that, I'm a big Prince fan. I love Prince. I love George Michael. I love Prince.
Yeah.
I love a lot of hip hop artists.
My two favorite.
Artists like Mobb Deep. I represent, Havoc of Mobb Deep, and it's one of my favorite groups. But what's interesting is that a lot of these artists never wanted to license their music. For example, Prince was notorious for never wanting his music used to sell candles, a loaf of bread, or a car. And it's sad because I've seen Prince's music used now. Yeah. And it's because Prince died without a will and he died without any instructions. And I think that when somebody has a catalog that's so lucrative, there's an incentive to make money off of it. And also, you are keeping the legacy alive. I respect that part. But there are artists who feel very strongly about it. They won't allow people to use their music. But the key for everybody watching this is if you're going to use anybody's music, just clear it.
Right.
Have somebody who knows how to clear music do it for you. It's not cheap, depending on the track you use. It could cost you $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 to do it. But it also depends on what you're going to use it in. If you are somebody who's just starting out, a small project, not a lot of viewers, it might cost you $5,000. If you are someone massive who's going to sell millions of records, it's going to cost you considerably more than that. So,
how many notes before a kid should be thinking about making sure they get it cleared? If you were going to take a wild.
I look at it more in terms of seconds. If you're going to be, if you're above 3 seconds, and that's not a hard and fast rule, you can get challenged for use at any point. I want to be super clear about that. Having said that, one rule of thumb would be if you're past the 3 second mark, 4 second mark, absolutely clear it. Because at that point, you can loop that portion and it becomes more noticeable. So there's a whole litany of things to worry about when you're talking about sampling. But I think the rule of thumb is if you're going to use it, just clear it. There's another thing that always happens that always comes up. So there's a fair use defense under the law. That? So for example, if I'm an educator and I'm at a high school and I'm using someone's music to educate the kids, I don't need a license because it's a fair use for purposes of education. If I'm using someone's music for something that is newsworthy, there's exceptions for that too. But I get clients and folks who insist that their use falls under fair use. Now, fair use has several different prongs to it. There's a lot of fair use exceptions. But sampling for commercial purposes is not one of them. So in other words, if you're making money off someone else's music, it's not fair use. But the client will say, oh, it is fair use because of this, and that. And I said, look, let's assume that you're right, okay? And you get sued. In order for you to prove that it's fair use, you're going to have to spend the $250,000 to litigate the case. So if you're going to spend $250,000 to prove you're right under a fair use defense, why don't you spend the $5,000 and get it done right and avoid the extra $245,000 worth of stress, worth of money, time? And litigation isn't fun. It's something that doesn't allow you to sleep at night. It's a big, big stress on your shoulders. It is a money pit. I mean, discovery, which means the exchange of documents in a federal litigation, you're up to $150,000 in about 2 months. And that's with attorneys that really care about you and your budget, and they're not out to inflate anything. You're going to spend a lot of money. It's cheaper to do it right. This is what I constantly battle with, because folks insist they're right, but it'll cost you too much to prove that. Just do it right. You have to think about money. It has to be, it really is a business cost that you have to think about. So we'll see if people change the way they think. Either way, I'll take good care of you, but I'd prefer that you do it right and not get into the litigation. You know, I always shy people away from litigation. I try to resolve it if I can. So, but if you need it, we can help. You know.
No, my gosh, these interviews always go way too fast. You know, the time just is over before I know it, and we're down to the wire. But what would be AI, tech, music, all kinds of ties together? What would you say to the artists of today for them to think about how they should create, protect themselves, innovate, but tie it all together?
I think that the AI tools are going to allow musicians who are not trained in music theory, who've never played an instrument, to actually show their creativity, which I think is great. Now, back in the day, if you didn't play an instrument or have music theory knowledge, you couldn't put out a record. Today you can. And in a sense, you use AI to help you, but it's still your creativity, which is great. On the other hand, because there's so much of it now, and because everybody can make music, the pond and the ocean of available music is so large that to be seen and heard is almost impossible. It is prohibitive. So you have a double-edged sword. AI, technology, computers, algorithms help everybody express themselves. But if you're looking to do it as a moneymaker, as you're living as a professional, you're going to have a very hard time giving the vast amount of music that exists. How are you going to differentiate yourself? And how are you going to come up out of that little tiny hole to actually be heard? So my suggestion would be really look at your craft and be honest with yourself. Is it good? Is it good? I get pitched music all the time, and I can tell you right now, 95% of it isn't good. And it's not because I say it isn't good. It's because it's not even mixed and mastered properly. What that means is they didn't use a studio to balance the level so that it actually sounds good to the ear and good to the listener. That takes money and time. So if you're going to release tracks that you made in your bedroom, nothing wrong with that. Because today, a computer and a couple drum machines, you have a full studio. Very powerful computers. But now, is it professional level? And if you do have professional level, do you have the budget to pay the marketing companies to be seen? So if you're going to go that route, hustle, grind, you can get on TikTok, you can get on the platforms 24/7, make the videos, show your skill set, and have passion for what you do, and you'll still have a good shot to make it.
That's a good bunch of advice. Very good bunch of advice. I have been speaking with Albert Soler of Soler Salva, and he is the chair of litigation and entertainment and intellectual property, and he has shared boatloads of information today. I sure learned a lot of things I wasn't exactly sure on, from who owns the masters to the publishing to copyright to trademark. I mean, lots of good information here today. So thank you so much for joining me.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Congratulations. I love your podcast, and anytime you need me, I'm always here for you. So thank you.
Thank you. We're recording in Manhattan Center, and there's going to be all kinds of information about Albert below this video. So I suggest you share it, Tell your friends about this. Certainly have a lot of friends who are whether they're in business or into entertainment or the music business in any category. Lots of good info. Albert's only a phone call away, and he can tell you ways to stay out of trouble.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. Hit subscribe.